Grow your practice, grow your wealth, grow your impact. Find out how to spend less time in the dental chair and more time on the things you love.
Welcome back to the Dental Wealth Podcast. Today we've got a great topic for you. And the topic we're going to talk about today is the compound effect. And anyone who's been around me and in my circle and listen to my conversations know that one of the things I firmly believe in is this idea of the compound effect. And we're going to talk today about how that affects a dental office, how it affects your ability to have the practice you've always wanted, how it affects your overall life, how it affects everything. So let's just jump in. And the idea of the compound effect is this: that truly every decision you make affects every other decision. That there's no decision that's in isolation. So there's no decision that you make outside. So let me give you an example of what I mean by that. So the example of whether you go home and have a glass of wine at night, the example of whether you get up and go to the gym in the morning, the example of how you talk to your team in the morning, the example of how you arrive, how you dress. Everything has a compound effect on everything else. So let me give you an example of how that affects a dental office, because you might be thinking to yourself, well, what does that have to do with a dental office? And the truth is, everything. So I was really recently talking to a dentist, and he is a specialist. And what had happened was, after so many years, his business, he had come to me and his business was in drastic decline. And he didn't really understand what had happened. I mean, he had this thriving, amazing specialty practice. And then he wakes up one day, he's got no money in the bank. Things are tight. His referral sources have dropped off. And cash flow, even making payroll becomes extremely difficult in those circumstances. So he says, what do I do? So we started having this conversation. Now, I found this guy because he had paid all these consultants all this money and still was struggling to try to get where he wanted to be, and he didn't really realize the problem. So when we started having a conversation, I said to him this. I said, let me explain what's actually happened. And you can go to work on all those systems and you can pay a bunch of consultants money, but it's not going to get you anywhere. And the reason why is because the compound effect. So what I said to him, I said, how did this all start? And so what he said was, well, what had happened was I went through a really bad divorce. And when I went through that really bad divorce, I would show up to the office and I was in a really bad mood, really just frustrated inside. And we've all had those days, right? We show up a little bit, not on our edge. And over time, he started allowing his personal life to bleed into the business. And he started kind of talking about all his personal problems. And he would kind of come in a bad attitude and a grumpy attitude. And then what happened is people that are high performing don't want to be in that culture. They don't want to be in that situation. So they end up leaving the practice. They move on and they go somewhere else. Well, who's left? There's this core of people that are left over who probably weren't the people he really truly was counting on for the most part anyhow. And then eventually they leave and then he has to hire replacements. Well, the people that come into that job weren't the same caliber as was before. Well, then as that started happening, the referral sources started getting bad responses back from patients. As that started happening, revenue started to go down as his referrals dropped off. As his referrals dropped off, cash flow was less. As cash flow was less, he became more stressed. As he became more stressed, he started taking out on his team even more. As he started taking out on his team more, he had higher turnover. And you can see how it goes from there. That this idea is that what actually went wrong, right? Where did it go wrong? And so the idea, we're going to bring in a consultant and the consultant's going to create some marketing plan or some strategic plan that's going to change everything overnight. You understand that's not going to work. It's not going to work because you have to go to the root of the issue. And the root of the issue is that there's been a compound effect that started and believe it or not, it was way before the divorce, right? It's usually typically a divorce is a symptom of letting other things go, right? There's no single isolation. And so that person typically lets their weight go, they let their marriage go, they let their bank account go, and things start to happen like that. And they wake up one day something Jim Rohn said years ago, I think is such a powerful statement, which is this: what you have today is a product of the person you've become. What you have today is a product of the person you've become. I want you to think about that. Your friends, your bank account, your marriage, right, your business, it's a product of the person you've become. So when we go to work on that, we say, okay, well then how do I fix that? Well, the answer to how to fix it is to become a different person. Now, how do you become a different person? You start to work on the small disciplines daily. So let me tell you what I mean by that. Well, if I get up in the morning and I lay out my gym shoes and I get to the gym in the morning, then I'm probably going to feel a little bit better that day. If I go to the gym that morning, I will probably eat better. If I eat better and go to the gym, I'm probably going to be more awake and have a better attitude when I get to the office. If I have a better attitude, I'm probably going to pass that on to my team and they're going to have a better attitude. If they have a better attitude, my patients will probably end up feeling that. If my patients start feeling that, they'll probably refer more business. As they refer more business, my revenues go up. As my revenues go up, I start to want to feel better. I start feeling better. My stress goes down. As my stress goes down, I start to want to have this compound effect where I'm like, hey, look, I want to improve my leadership abilities. As I improve my leadership abilities, I start looking around me and saying, hey, I need a better team. So I start hiring better people. As I start hiring better people, those people know really talented people. It's like, you listen to this. If you listen to this and you say to yourself, Eric, the problem is my team. The problem is if I just had a good team, then I would be in good shape. I will tell you that if you're listening to this thinking to yourself, if I just had a good team, nobody else will tell you, but I will. It's you. If you want to fix your team, you go to work on yourself. You have what you attract. Write that down. You have what you attract. Right? To have more, you must become more. To have more, you must become more. And so how do you become more? Is it as simple as going to the gym in the morning? Of course it is. Where else would you start but going to the gym? Is it as simple as eating something healthy in the morning, which will inspire you to go to the gym, which will inspire you to treat your team differently? Of course it is. Where else would you start? See, sometimes we want this magic pill and we hope that we can pay some company for this magical recipe that's going to bring in 100 new patients a month. And there's companies out there that are throwing out this idea that, you know, especially on LinkedIn, I get these messages and, hey, Eric, we're going to give you 25 new clients a day and we're going to bring in so many new leads. And it's become an epidemic. That at this day and age, what we're doing is we're looking for the easy way, the cheap way, the fastest way, the magic pill, the thing that will get us over the edge. And the truth is that it takes discipline, it takes hard work, but you only have to go to work on one habit. You don't have to go to work on everything. So if you want the practice of your dreams, believe it or not, yes, you know, we teach, you know, all kinds of different strategies and tactics and marketing and all those things that we can go through. But you have to understand that the foundation's not there. If the foundation's not there, it's not going to stick anyhow. It's truly what you do in this minute that matters. It's what you do when you walk up to your team and how you feel and how you interact and how you change behaviors. Now, let me go back to this dentist again that I was talking about. So where do you think I started with this dentist? So I asked him to pick up a book. It sounds kind of interesting, right? I said, listen, I've got 3 books. I've got 3 books I'd love for you to listen to. And if you'll read these books or listen to these books, I'd love to have a conversation at the end. So he read the 3 books. And he came back to me and he said, my gosh, I was so inspired by these books. I started sharing it with my team. And as my team listened to these books, they said, hey, this is pretty inspiring. And they said, hey, Doc, you seem like a different person. I'd want to know what you read. What did you learn? What inspired you? What motivated you? What moved you, right? And so the team started picking up those books and they started listening to the books and then they started discussing it. Then it started to create another culture. What ended up happening actually, then people started getting motivated and they started implementing what they were reading and what we were discussing. As that happened, literally as of last week, they had their highest revenue month in over 5 years. Is it as simple as reading a book? And it is. Now, that doesn't mean there's no strategies along the way. It certainly doesn't mean that there isn't a lot to learn in business acumen and leadership and coaching and training them. There's a lot to learn. But I'm telling you that if you don't become more, it won't stick anyhow. If you want to create an amazing business and you want to lead people and you want to make an impact, become more. If you want to make an impact, become a different person. Be the conduit to which all that information flows. And I'm telling you, if you do that, that's what ends up changing. Then when you meet people like me, what ends up happening is when I drop in a piece of information, just get this, when I drop in a piece of information, it sticks, it stays, it gets implemented, it moves, it's motivating, the team grabs it, they hold on to it. I'm telling you that it will change your team. It will change their behaviors, how they interact, how they engage. I'm telling you, when you become more, you attract more. Now, when you listen to this, you might think, well, that's kind of fluffy stuff, Eric, right? But it's not. This is how great businesses are started, how they become great, how they stay great. I'm telling you that it starts with simple daily disciplines. And if you can do that, if you can take those simple daily disciplines and you can put them in place, I'm telling you, you'll change the way you think about yourself. You won't see yourself the same way. You won't carry yourself the same way. That's why I'm not a huge fan of doctors wearing dirty, wrinkled scrubs into the office. Don't tell me that doesn't have an impact on the way you carry yourself and the way you talk to patients and the way you interact versus having a nice white coat, right? Nice, right? Dress clothes, look professional, walk in professional, head up high, feeling strong, feeling, right, like a leader. Now, I'm not saying that some days you don't need to wear scrubs. I'm saying is everything affects everything else. You wake up halfway out of bed and you throw on a pair of scrubs and you show up in the office and you look around and everybody looks the same way, like they just got out of bed. You don't need to hire a consultant. You need to change your clothes. Let that sink in for a moment. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take this and I want to say, look, if I'm going to create dental wealth, if I'm going to create the life that I've always wanted, if I'm going to have accumulation, if I'm going to impact people, if I'm going to have a phenomenal team, what I need to do is I need to go to work on me. I need to go to work on simple daily habits. Don't pick 12. It won't stick anyhow. Don't pick 12. Pick one habit, and just do it consistently. And then let me know how it goes. Have a great week.